Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Brianna, and today I'm here with Kait Simpson. How are you, Kait?
I'm pretty well. How are you?
Perfect. I'm good. Thank you. So this past weekend, we saw each other at the ORSO Provincials, and I didn't have a chance to talk to you. So how do you think the weekend went?
I think it went pretty well. It was nice to see just a variety of different types of wins, if you know what I mean. You know, some were personal, some were seeing athletes podium for the first time, some was just seeing teammates get closer. And that's generally what the sport is about. It's just kind of those moments and those experiences. And it's not necessarily always about winning, but it's about just creating those memories as a competitive athlete.
Yeah. So ORSO is the Ontario Rope Skipping Organization. Did you do jump rope and rope skipping when you were younger?
So I started later than most athletes. Most athletes start in a rec program, come up into pre-competitive, and then come up into competitive. So they're picking up a rope anywhere between the ages of, 5 to 9, and generally hitting a competitive capacity if they choose to do so, sometimes around between 9 and 11. I didn't pick up a rope until I was 12, actually. So I'm the odd story per se. I was in grade 4 and I tried out for like a jump rope for heart team, but it was just a school-based team. So they just wanted a couple jumpers to just help do the jump rope for heart, like school demo.
Yeah.
So I tried out for that and I didn't make it. And I was like, you know what? This is something I really like. All my friends are on this team. I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to try out again. And the gym teacher at the time was like, there are other sports out there, just if this isn't something, you're super good at, you can try something else. And that just put a fire right under my butt. So I trained for a year, and one of my friends, Samantha Harley, was on jump stations at the time. And she was like, you know what, like you've gotten pretty good just from jumping with her at recess, like try out for jump stations.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was 12, I joined jump stations, and I've been jumping ever since. I'm almost 32 now. So I'm coming up on 20 years. I still got a rope in my hand.
Good for you. That's wholesome. It's very wholesome. Well, like from sports, how you try out for those teams, like when you're in elementary and then you go to high school and whatnot. And there's not really a lot of like wiggle room for that too. I find with like those like niche little things.
Yeah.
And jump rope is very niche, right? Like I haven't really thought it was that big until my friend actually said, hey, you know what? Like I actually did jump stations too when she was younger. So it's kind of fun to see that parallel.
Absolutely.
So you said that you've been jumping for 20 plus years, right? So have you transitioned to like a coaching staff position? Like where do you fall in that?
So I've worn a lot of hats throughout the sports simultaneously, but I've chosen to do so and I thoroughly enjoy it. So still jumping. I haven't taken a year off competing since I started. I started coaching, recreation classes and stuff like that, probably in high school. And then when I was in university was when I started my own university jump rope team.
Oh, wow, that's fun.
So I actually took university athletes from Lakehead, was training them and jumping with them. And then we were coming to competitions as a group of 4 or 5 and competing in events just like Provincials.
Yeah.
So we were a registered team with Provincials, and it was just a lot of fun. And that's kind of where my coaching truly started. And then since then I've been able to travel. I've jumped with other teams, but I've always been in that coaching role. So even this past weekend, I did have a couple events. I was still training myself with my team, but I do still have, a group of 10-ish athletes that I was coaching, whether it was a speed event or freestyle event, making sure that they were warmed up, prepared, helping them with what they need. And that's where, although I still love jumping, that's where I can really see my passions starting to shift.
Yeah.
I love being in the jump rope gym, but if I had to pick, I would rather be in the coach's box at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of opportunities are there for like adult athletes to compete?
So there's always an option for adults to compete. We do have a couple. There is a 30 plus age category. Some are very experienced competitive athletes that just do it, for their own reasons. And then there's some that are parents and they pick up a rope because, well, I'm at the gym 6 days a week for my athletes. I might as well do it instead of just sitting on a bench, right?
Yeah.
So there's a few parents that do it. In the past, I've definitely seen, a handful and variety of parents pick it up and do it. And then there's always, adult classes if you don't want to be competitive as well. And those are just more, they're a little bit more relaxed. They're not as structured or regiment as our recreation or pre-competitive classes. But it's just, hey, let's exercise. Let's try some new stuff. Let's have some fun. but we're going to need a pretty good warm up and a good stretch and a good cool down kind of thing.
That's kind of encouraging too for the younger athletes to see all of their parents taking part and interest of what they're doing too. And like you said, you're there 6 days a week out of the week. So
yeah,
it's kind of nice to, be like, oh, we can bond over this, we can do that and whatnot. So that's nice.
Right.
So competition wise, are they local? Are they out there? Like, where's the farthest you've gone for a competition?
So to answer the first part of your question, there's different levels of competition. Okay. So anything local in Ontario is either going to be just like the Ontario Open, which is open to any team to come and attend. What's more of like just an invitational, like a practice competition. And then Provincials is obviously the provincial level where our athletes are trying to qualify for nationals.
Okay.
Then your next step is nationals, which is everybody in Canada who has qualified for that position. And then you have your international competitions as well.
Okay.
For myself personally, not necessarily competition based, is the farthest place I've traveled is probably Kenya.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was amazing. It was jump rope related, but it wasn't a competition. Back in 2013, I traveled with a bunch of American athletes, and we went to Kenya through One World, One Rope, which is just a nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. And we pretty much helped support and encourage teams to be built in Kenya and Tanzania. So anything from running competitions, donations of ropes and clothing, getting, the structure of their organizations and their team set up and established, promoting it throughout, their communities and stuff. So that was about a 2.5 week trip, which was just absolutely phenomenal.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the farthest I've traveled thus far. And then this July will be Worlds through the International Jump Rope Union, and that is in Japan. So that will be the farthest I would have traveled for a competition related event.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know last year the Provincials were in Hamilton again. This year they were in Hamilton. Yeah. And then what was it? What was it in was like Waterloo, London area?
Yeah, it was Kitchener, but right by Laurier.
Laurier, yes. And that was for what competition?
That would have been nationals.
Nationals, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're at the nationals this year. They're in Saskatoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never been there before, so this will be a first.
Yeah, that's fun. All right, so Japan, what can you expect in Japan?
In what capacity?
Yeah, like what is the flow and organization kind of the same, like how it was on Provincials, or is it a little bit different? Like what kind of, like what varies?
So it's going to be a much larger scale.
Okay.
Generally, your international events, whether it was through FISAC or World Jump Rope or now IJRU, it is 5 to 6 day competition. Wow. And there's less categories. So you have Junior Worlds, which is 15 and under, and that's the only age category. And then you have like your Worlds, which is 16 and older, and that's your only age category. And each country is only sending 3 teams or 3 athletes per event. So you have to be like the top 3 in the country to be able to go on that stage. And generally speaking, those competitions will run simultaneously. So they'll have multiple gyms going at the same time. But your big like main stage event is the World Championships, where it's only you on the floor. You have your music. There's only one table of judges. You're in a basketball stadium per se. One thing that World Jump Rope implemented, which is still carried out at an international level, is something called Grands. So what they do is you going and competing at the international level is kind of like your prelim.
Okay.
So you have your first round, you'll still get a medal, but then they take the top 3 scores, or I think it's top 6 scores from what you competed that day, and you get to repeat in the Grand World Finals. And it's the same routine, same events, but then that's broadcasted on television. That's where you get your trophy. That's where you get your Grand World title, because not only have you done it once and been successful, now you've done your routine or your event twice. Mm-hmm. It's been on TV, and it's just that one extra step of professionalism.
Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely like steps.
Yeah.
do you know, like on the top of your head, how long these athletes have to compete for and have to train for in order for them to kind of be qualified to go into Worlds?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to depend on the athlete.
Yeah.
Right. Generally speaking, like my team, we've been training. We took 3 weeks off from the last World Championships, and then we were back to in the gym working on stuff, training. So we're about, by the time Worlds comes, we're going to be around the 2-year mark of consistent training with minimal to no breaks. And if we do take a break, it's only going to be due to injury or a couple weeks at a time.
Yeah.
I can't speak for other countries, but I feel like that is common throughout Canada. It's very common to have, multiple years, multiple months of training just for that one specific event. And that's not even including the previous experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've been training 2 years for Japan, but I've been jumping, and technically my past experiences would relate to what I consider as training, right?
So you're competing in Japan?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I have 4 events, and then Jump Stations has, I believe, 24 athletes that have qualified.
Wow.
Between Worlds and Junior Worlds.
That's huge.
So yeah, it's going to be busy.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Good for you. And comparing like, let's say like hockey to jump rope, like jump rope athletes, they're in a capacity where they're in the gym like 6 days a week, and hockey could be like 4 to 6 or whatnot. And, like you're still practicing those skills, but I feel like jump rope's more targeted.
Absolutely.
And you kind of have to have the skill and the speed and the competitiveness too. And yeah. It's so wholesome to see all of them too, competing and like along each other and like clapping for each other and applauding. And you normally don't really see that in sports nowadays too. So it's nice and refreshing.
The one thing that I really appreciate about the sport, and there's other sports out there that it's relative to, like such as gymnastics, maybe not gymnastics, but there's other sports out there that it's relative to, is that on the Saturday, you saw it at Provincials. Saturday, you're a team. Here's your pairs partner. Here's your double Dutch group. Go and do your best and win. And then in less than 12 hours, they have to come back to the same gym, wear the same uniform, but now it's all individual events, and now you're against your teammates.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where it's a niche opportunity to teach these younger athletes and next generation that it's okay to be competitive, and it's okay to want the absolute best and try your hardest and be successful. But sportsmanship has to be a top tier priority as well if you want to be successful in this sport.
Yeah,
right. You have to be able to be very, very supportive and grateful and appreciative for your teammates, no matter how well or how poorly your events went.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a great thing to teach at such a young age. I think for any athlete who kind of has that mentality sorted out is going to be very successful even in, their own professional careers. Right? It's such a good characteristic to find that balance between personal success and growth and not jeopardizing your goals, but being a teammate and a friend first.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. With what you said about individual, like you have all of your speeds, and then you have your freestyles, and then you have, it's nice to see. It's nice, and it's also interesting to see the kind of dynamic split between that too. Of like you said, like you're on a team, you're doing it together, and then again, it's like kind of 1v1 at that point. But I think it is important, as you kind of said as well, to teach that sportsmanship and to like, hey, you know what? Like we did great, but like, hey, I need to do better than you in order to do that. And they would say it in a tone where it's like, I'm here for you, and I want the best for you too. So it's not. You don't view it as negative, which is great, especially when they're at those ages where they are very like forming ages of their life too. Like they're going through a whole lot, and they're athletes too. So I find even like as like a student teacher, just like a teacher in general, like you kind of just like focus on the academics, and you don't really like focus on the external of what everyone else is going on. So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah. A perfect example from this past weekend is there's a group of 4 athletes that I coach specifically, and then I have various athletes through private lessons and whatnot. But those 4 are kind of my, like, I'm responsible for them, and I want to make sure they're set up for success, right? And it was individual or master's day. One of my athletes went, and her routine like didn't go well. And she had her moment. She had every right to be upset. She felt what she needed to feel. And then by the time her teammate was up for her turn, she was the first one sitting on the floor. She was cheering the loudest, and it's hard. It's not even something you can teach. It's something that you can support or encourage through experiences.
Yeah.
And just to even see that level of sportsmanship, no matter how devastated you are yourself, you can't teach or tell somebody to do that. That has to come from them. And that takes a level of maturity. And that takes, again, just the ability to prioritize accordingly. And to see that from a 13-year-old is very impressive.
You mentioned growing up, you've had a lot of friends that had jump rope experience too. So do you still keep in contact with them? And are they still on the sport?
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny you say that. I actually met my husband through the sport.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So to say that jump rope has, definitely influenced in a positive manner my relationships, can confirm. But yeah, there's even, like, back in the day, I had one of my original coaches was Leanne Mello, now Leanne Hall. And she was a phenomenal coach. She's somebody I looked up to and idolized. She was great to me. Like, I still, I'm very thankful for what she taught me back when I was 12 to 18. And it's funny now because when I was about 18, she stepped out of the sport. Totally fine, I get it. And then now she's back with KW Jump Rope because she lives in Kitchener and her daughter started competing with KW Jump Rope. So now she's back as a coach, and it's so nice to see her, back in the gym. Now we're both coaching. I'm still jumping. It's like nothing ever changed.
Yeah.
Right. So just moments like that is phenomenal. Like I said, I met my husband through the sport. We started with a long distance relationship. He was in Seattle. I was traveling throughout Canada. And then I went to Seattle. I jumped on that team and I had some circus shows out there. And then we came back to Canada and got settled. And he coaches jump stations. He really just does more private lessons, but he's also heavily involved with Ninja Warrior.
Okay.
So
that's on Upper James, right?
That's one of them. He works for Zaccato, which is in Stony Creek.
Okay.
But so he's still very coach oriented.
Yeah.
We're both, we both love being in that role and that type of mentor. And it's all because of the sport. I wouldn't have met him without it. Right.
Yeah.
It's even funny at our wedding. It was a couple years back. We had just under 100 people attend. And I was like, the only thing I ask is I just want to take a jump rope photo. So if you've ever been a jump rope athlete and you're here at the wedding, come take a picture. And it was like 40 something people in the picture.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Bridesmaids and all. It's been phenomenal. And even at the university level, when I started that team, those people I jumped with, one was a bridesmaids. I still keep in touch with all of them. And I still have university friends in general, but those are generally the ones that I'm staying the most in touch with.
Wow.
So,
that's so nice. That's
very
so wholesome. Very sweet.
It's very safe to say that the sport has positively influenced my life, and not just for my personal beliefs or morals and values or behaviors, but who I spend my time with, what I aspire to be, how I goal set and all of that. So it's sports in general. It's not necessarily just jump rope, but youth in sports is so crucial to teach all of these things that, again, you're not necessarily going to teach them, but you can support and encourage through experiences.
Yeah. Wow. That is so sweet. Actually, that's so nice to hear, Yeah. Like when you're a kid and you're in like a sports setting, and I find nowadays, like all of these coaches, at least from what I've seen, they've all been like athletes since a younger age. And it's nice to see that they had such a positive experience that they want to give back to all these athletes. And again, like guide and encourage them. And you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, okay, tell me more about the circus. I'm actually interested.
So it started in university. I just started trickling in with performances because unfortunately with competitive jump rope, there isn't much monetary incentive within the sport.
Yeah.
Even as an athlete who's been to, 9 or 10 international competitions. Like unless I find sponsors or fundraise, it's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And if I come first, I'm not getting a dime. I'm going to get a nice trophy and a high five, you know? So I started trickling into performances because they're paid gigs, right? So I started again locally with Circus, started doing some shows with them. And then it started trickling into other stuff, got into corporate events. I toured a little bit. I was in Quebec City doing circus shows there. And it's honestly so much fun.
Sounds so much fun.
It's phenomenal. The nice thing about it is that from a performance or circus standpoint, you don't have to put your hardest tricks first. You have to put the flashiest tricks and the tricks that you can get 100% of the time, no matter what, right? In circus, it needs to be clean. You can't have any misses. You can't have any flaws in the routine. And they want the flashy tricks. Like the general audience may not notice the difference between a double under and a triple under, but they're going to be in awe if you do 10 in a row. And 10 double unders is easier than 10 triple unders, right? And that's also through circus performances where I really learned to hone in just more of a choreography perspective of things. Like in the circus, you have to jump to the beat. Your routines are choreographed to an 8 count. You cannot miss a jump. You cannot make a mistake, right? And in competition, you have harder routines where once you're on the floor, if you make a miss, you know where you have to adapt and adjust to get your required elements to play the game, right? So circus has been absolutely phenomenal. I've been doing it on and off since I was 20. Have a couple corporate events lined up for this year, so still dabbling a little bit. But yeah, it was phenomenal. I don't know if that answered your question.
Absolutely did. Yeah, that's interesting. You know, you sound like you're a jack of all trades.
Oh gosh. I've just been doing it a long time.
That's okay. I know what you just said with kind of like picking up where the athletes like missed a beat or whatnot. I saw a couple of that during the competition this weekend, you know, when you like hit yourself with a rope on your ankles and whatnot, they always pick it up and they always know where to go. So yeah, that's nice to see, especially like with their coaches and their mentors too. I know I saw a bunch of you on the sidelines, like still doing like the 5, 6, 7, 8, like, you know, doing all that too. And it's like they sometimes need that. Well, not like in a negative connotation either, but yeah, you know, just like to keep on track and keep on going. And even with the speed jumps, I saw you there and you're encouraging them and like taking their steps and whatnot. So no, it was very sweet to see. And especially like a typical sport that Storm and I have never covered or Top Shelf Media has never covered. So it was kind of nice to kind of see how that was ran last year compared to this year. And even at that, like we were super excited. We're like, oh, we're going to go to jump rope this weekend. And it's fun to see. Back on the topic of it, what's your favorite like category to kind of coach and teach and whatnot?
I feel like just single rope freestyle in general is my niche. That's where I've been the most successful personally. That's where I've invested a lot of time. Partially because like when I went to university, I went 18 hours north. The closest jump rope team was a 15-hour drive. Yeah. So it was just me training there, and you're not going to have a successful double Dutch team with that distance, right? So I feel like because of that, that's really just honed in my ability to train and also to coach single rope freestyles. And then secondary to that, I think would be single rope speeds. Yeah. Just that's kind of been my bread and butter. It's just something I can figure out relatively quickly. I can see misses coming, like as the athlete's jumping and getting tired. I can see the slightest change to anticipate the mistake, so I can help them adjust to ideally mitigate that. So that's definitely where I think I'm the strongest coach. I still have double Dutch experience. I've still been successful with double Dutch, both speed and freestyle. But I think that as well with, you know, pairing it with choreography, that's kind of where I can be most useful. Yeah.
And it's nice to kind of be that versatile too. Like you have your shtick, someone else has their shtick. Like if you have the same one, you're not going to be a successful team. You kind of have to have that experience and that expertise per se and that too. So it's good.
Well, it's nice because to elaborate on that a little bit, on Jump Stations, there's a coach, her name's Sam. She's also an older athlete and a very successful athlete. But her work with double Dutch is just impeccable. Like what I do with single rope freestyle, I watch her choreograph a double Dutch or coach a double Dutch, and it's just, it's so awesome. And that's just kind of, you know, where I see one of her many strengths. And I just think that, you know, one day it's like, okay, well, if I work on it, I can be like Sam too.
Yeah. It's nice too, like with being encouraged like that, even as athletes, you know, you're like, oh, they're so good. And you're like, oh, how can I get to that level? Like, I feel like at a mature age, you're like, okay, yeah, like they're great. What can I do to get to that level? Instead of being like, oh my God, she's better at me. I hate her for it.
Right.
So it's nice to have that parallel.
And that comes with what we already talked about is, you know, in this sport, you have to be supportive while pushing towards your personal goals. And that's again, what this sport teaches at such a young age.
So with jump rope, do you ever have any opportunities to go to like elementary schools and kind of do like a little event per se, or like, how does that look?
So back when I had my university team, I was doing it independently. And it was awesome. I would go in as kind of like a guest phys ed teacher, and whatever class had gym that day would just come in, and I'd run the same 30-minute class for as many classes as there was in the day. Now, I know Jump Stations does it a little bit differently, and the more common way to do it is how Jump Stations does it, which is where we'll take a group of athletes. It's voluntary to sign up. And then the team will plan a day where they tour 5 or 6 schools, and it'll be more assembly based.
Yeah.
So either promoting Jump Rope for Heart, or promoting the sport, or, you know, supporting and, you know, working with, you know, organizations that promote nutrition in kids, or whatever the circumstance may be. And that's more commonly the way sport promotion through elementary schools is completed.
So. Yeah. Like how you were a younger athlete and, you know, you had that experience too. Yeah. Just imagine how that could change someone's life too with all of that. So.
Right. And well, that's what I saw the team, and I'm like, I want to do that. All my friends are on that team. And that's where the passion started, right?
You never know what will stick with you at that age too, right?
And I even know for my husband, Robbie, he was, I think, 9 at the time. He saw a school demo, and one of the male athletes in the school demo did like a round off back tuck with a single rope. And he just went to his mom. He's like, I'm going to do that. And that was that, right? Then he joined a competitive team, and he was a phenomenal jumper. Like, he hasn't jumped in, I think, about maybe 6 or 7 years, but like he has close to like 30 world titles.
All right. Thank you so much for coming down to the studio today and being off the shelf. It's very nice having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. You guys are phenomenal. We love working with you. And I know the sport in general just loves your quality and your quantity of services and products that you guys provide. So honestly, thank you.
Of course. Good luck at World.
Thank you.